Hi folks, I don't know if you can anybody hear me. I am trying my hardest actually to make sure my voice is heard. Anyone hear me? Please let me know. I wanted to share a story today. Like I said on my I think I just only posted on my Facebook and my TikTok. I want to talk to you about trauma. Actually, I do want to have a conversation. A little bit uncomfortable for most because we don't really talk about these things very often. And hi Jay. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to mention is my own story, my own struggle through my life. I went through some, I guess I should really tell you the real story. I was involved with a man who turned out to be a drug dealer, drug user. Just about everything on the planet. I didn't know until I actually moved in with him. And I saw the needles. That's literally how. And he was a cancer survivor, a bladder cancer survivor, which happens very rare. I should have left many moons early, but I didn't. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about that is my late husband passed away from cancer. And for some reason I always felt like, I don't know, maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I failed in some ways, in some big ways. And so I think it was really mostly guilt that was kind of holding me there. And it was a life of abuse, tyranny in some ways. You quite literally never knew what happened quite often from 1 hour to the next, whether it was daytime or nighttime. And it got to a point where I just wanted to escape, sleep. It started really impacting my mental health in the ways that I got the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, severe generalized anxiety disorder, sleep insomnia, and all kinds of other stuff. Hit depression a couple times, but that really wasn't my problem. My problem was really mostly anxiety. And at one point, we'll have a conversation about some of that subject later, what I did as an accident. But one of the things I want to say is when you're in that situation, you have to forget the past. You have to forgive yourself for your past, and don't stick around in a situation that's really toxic. That's really the big thing, because what happened to me next was was really quite something. I lived for 3.5 years in constant fear that he'll be flying off the walls, yelling, breaking windows, yelling at me. He never hurt me. That's one thing. That's one thing I was very sure about. Is that he would never hurt me physically. And then eventually I had enough. We moved into a place, a Christian home, and he really hated it because well, it wasn't his lifestyle, you know. He wanted to smoke marijuana, he wanted to smoke cigarettes. I got so used to his needles, finding them everywhere. It was just disgusting. He got into fentanyl. Later on I found out he actually put some fentanyl in my glass of wine one time. I didn't know that because I guess obviously I wasn't used to it, so I only found that out later, after he died. Oh yeah, he died. And then I found out that he actually slipped some of that stuff into my glass of wine, which made it overdose. Thank God I had what's called narcoline. Narcoline is actually the anti-agent that if somebody overdoses, you either shove it up their nose or stick them with a needle. It depends which kind of version you have. I had the one that goes up the nose. So apparently they put that in me. I didn't even know that. All I remember is waking up in bed and I just had a severe bad headache. And I just assumed it was one of my migraines because I was starting to get them. And that's what happens actually. We'll talk about the mental health part and what happens with the serotonin levels going down, dopamine, and we'll talk about all of the brain chemicals and actually the natural ways to treat them, not just medical. But I started getting migraines, and that was part of that. When your serotonin levels go down, which is what happens when you get anxiety, it's what's called happy hormone. In any case, we got in such an argument that I finally got so fed up, that I basically kicked him out. And that was actually after finding 2 kilos of coke on my coffee table in my place, registered in my name with a whole bunch of guys, which of course I told to clear out within a couple of minutes, or the police was pretty much on my speed dial by then. In any case, he threatened me that night, and I just kind of thought it was nothing. And we got in an argument. The day after that, I basically lost it. Just packed up his stuff. I said, get out. Go to your mom's. Like, I just couldn't stand it. So that's what happened. Decided to leave. Didn't hear from him for a while, and then after a while I heard from him. I heard that he was actually getting some help. He was starting to get better. So one of the things that I know about mental health, because by then I was actually seeing a psychiatrist, is that the self-care doesn't just include your body, but the self-care also includes your environment. So what I wanted to do as a nice person, somebody who cared, is I went over to his place. He was living in like a trailer park, and I knew how messy he was, so I wanted to clean up and just make his environment a little bit nicer. Got him a barbecue, got him a whole bunch of stuff. Just basically tried to set him up for a better life. 2 hours later, the next day, actually, because I slept on a couch. Hours later, the next day, he shows up. The first thing I saw was a fist through the door. He disappeared for a couple hours, and then I just assumed he was just maybe overseeing some of his friends that he made over there. We weren't together. I certainly wasn't keeping tabs on him or anything. And I guess I trusted the process. And that's when you're wrong. Sometimes you need to know when you need to walk away. That was too much. Dealing with drug dealers is very hard. And it takes quite something. And what's happened next is he attacked me. Actually, he spat at me after he broke the door down. And I knew how to handle him for years. So I basically told him, sit down, relax. I'm gonna get you some water. Maybe a glass of wine. Maybe that'll calm you down. And instead, the first thing I saw was a blow in my face. He spat at me, and then he blew it. Like, it was just so fast. And I've never been hit like that in my life. And he was not a big guy. I mean, he was tall, but he was thin. He was strong. Wow. I had no idea. And then he just kept pounding me and took my head and beat it against the wall so hard I saw stars. I lost consciousness. Then I woke up. I had a knife to my stomach. And that was when actually one of my friends who was actually a Nigerian, I think he's Nigerian. He was a trainer, a boxer. And back when I used to have a condo, when my husband was around, I used to train with him. So it was interesting that the training actually came in right that moment when I saw that knife. And I knew exactly what to do. And the next punch that came flying towards my face, I knew exactly how to dodge it. And it was hard as hell. I barely managed to grab my stuff. And I ran out. Apparently I had, well, I didn't know I had broken teeth. But I had huge cut, a huge thing with my eye, and I guess blood was pouring all over me. My phone was still left at the place, so I found a store nearby, and they were actually closing down. And I said, "Can I please come in?" And they said, "No, we're closing." And then they saw the blood. And she just rushed me right in, called the police, paramedics came in. I was in a hospital for a couple days, and under a continuous 24-hour security monitoring by police. That was just the beginning. Then I spent 2 weeks at home, literally in bed because I couldn't move. Funny enough, my legs are scratched up because he dragged me, and I was all banged up. I had to go back to the hospital 3 days later or 4 days later to get myself checked out, and I think that was probably almost the most devastating thing a victim can go through. And they're almost naked. I mean, people measure you up. But this is the sort of stuff that I want to talk about. because you know what? It made me a stronger person in the end. But it took time. So I don't know how long this is gonna last, but here I am just wanting to talk. And I wanted to share that story, that even, you know, cute, pretty people go through some pretty rough stuff. And the hardest part, actually, believe it or not, wasn't really the beating. That made me kind of face honesty. I thought I was gonna die. The police was surprised I didn't. There was no court case because there was so much evidence that his lawyer simply made a deal. He went to jail for attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and a whole bunch of other charges. And nobody could talk to me. None of his friends, family, and all that other stuff. Then I actually moved there. When I went to the hospital to get checked out, that was the hard part. And this is what I want to talk about. That you need to, if you ever go through something like that, this is the one thing you need to watch out for. What are the signals of post-traumatic stress disorder? I didn't know them because, well, obviously I've never gone through something like that before in my life. But what was really hard is, as I was trying to get on the bus to go to the hospital in Mississauga, Toronto, when it was weird because suddenly the sounds were just almost like peeving at me, and I just kept getting like freaked out over any noise that was behind me. And then I got to the hospital, and then I went through that really terrible process of getting rechecked, and the fact that they found my molar teeth at the back of my mouth broken should have basically pulverized my chin. My jaw should have been broken. It wasn't. So there's a reason why I'm here. I believe so. I think I got saved so that way I can actually put a voice to those people who are silenced, who don't have a voice, who deal with this stuff in silence. I want you to know that you're not alone. You don't have to be short, fat, and ugly and all this stuff to go through that stuff. And I will actually have my media director post a picture of what I looked like back then when I was going through this abuse for years versus what you see now. Just to show you how important self-care is. Because I didn't look like this. I looked distraught. Didn't do my hair up. I was a mess. And only later that I figured out how. It was actually my mom that noticed that I was having some PTSD issue, because I would suddenly sit there and just freeze up, and I didn't realize that. See, that's the thing, when you're going through that stuff, you don't necessarily see it, you know it inside. So watch out for those signs. When you know that you get scared or you have fear of something, or you can't sleep, or you wake up with sweats, you scream at night, you get nightmares. Big thing with me was another sign too, is different things will actually trigger what's called flashbacks. It's like a broken movie, you know, where you see pictures and you can't really make sense out of what they are, but you know it. So for me, it was a cigarette smell. For whatever reason, like even if there was no cigarette smell, nobody was smoking, I would actually smell it, and I would just literally freeze up. My mom was here once, and jokingly, she was just making a salad, and she threw a lettuce on the table, and I almost fell off the chair. And that's when I knew it. I needed help. I didn't need just medicine. I needed to talk to somebody, and I needed to face it. And that's what you need to do. You have to face it. So cognitive behavior therapy is something I strongly recommend to anybody that goes through something like that. It's basically trying to face things and retrain your brain. There is something called neuroplasticity in your brain, which means that your brain can actually find different ways to do the same thing. Which means you don't have to die with the brain you were born. You can heal. And not just on medication. Change your lifestyle. Change your settings. I moved away. I moved to a country where if I got angry or upset, I just went and grabbed a whole bunch of tree barks and just banged the trees. Literally. That's what I did. I boxed. I did yoga. And the biggest thing I did is cognitive behavior therapy counseling. I remember that lady that I would, the counselor that I was talking to, because it was COVID, so I couldn't go and see her. And I remember the night before I would actually talk to her. I talked to her once a week. I had a hard time sleeping. I would sweat. I would just almost go nuts. Like I couldn't sit still. I wanted to run. I wanted to do something stupid. Something. I listened to music. Music, actually, believe it or not, music is one of the best things. Natural thing, healers, natural calmers for your serotonin levels. So that's one. And there was actually called also a therapy called brainwave music. And yeah. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, and I think we'll post, maybe Jay will post the link to a group that I find very good. MNR something. See, that's the thing. I had 3 different concussions at the end of it. And because the concussions happen at the front and the back of my brain, 3 different ways. I had a hard time formulating long-term memories. Just to give you an example, one time when I was supposed to speak to my therapist, I realized I used to talk to her on Tuesdays, and I would realize one time I realized on Thursday or Friday, oh my God, I'm supposed to call her. And I called the office and just to apologize, to say, oh God, I'm so sorry, I missed the appointment. And she got on the phone and she said, Anya, do you know that we did actually talk? We had a very good long conversation. Apparently the conversation was so good I forgot. So, key message here. When it comes to dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder or trauma of any kind, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And as my therapist said, the last 10% takes 90% of the effort. I'll give you another example. Because he used to do fentanyl. To inject it. It comes in powder. And they put it on a spoon with water. And in order to inject it, they put these, like in Canada, they have these metal scrubbies that you do dishes with. And he would literally take the pieces out. And that's how he would use to separate the stuff. And when I moved here, one of the things that the retired priest that I live with had was those metal scrubbies. And I swear, for the first 2 years I was here, he had to hide them because I would just freeze up. I could not look at them because that was the first flashback I would see. And then I would see if you've ever been in a fight or ever been hurt, being smashed like that, especially as a woman who's never really done that or been in that kind of environment, then it takes its toll. It really does. But that goes the same thing for guys. They get robbed or held up by a gun or anything else. PTSD is real, guys. And it's really, really important to sit there and face it. And the only way really to get through that kind of stuff, like those scrubbies, for example. You know what? I held one by the kitchen, by the sink. And every time I talked to my therapist, she goes, how's the scrubby? And I'm like, well, it's sitting there. And she says, why don't you try something? She goes, part of cognitive therapy is actually really facing and really getting into that sort of the stuff that hurts you, the stuff that makes you fear. That's really what PTSD is fear. Trauma is real, guys. Deal with it, or you'll live with it for the rest of your life, and it'll hunt you down and it will break you down. And I promise you, if you don't deal with it, it will destroy every part of your life. Your career, your family, your friends, everything. So I started conditioning my brain. First, I'd look at it. Try not to be scared. Then I'd look at it again. And eventually, by doing so, it got to a point where I literally picked it up one day because I was washing something that was just terribly stuck to a pot. And it was really the best thing to use. So without thinking, I picked it up. And only afterwards I looked at myself. I almost like looked at myself internally, and I basically sat there and said, wow, that was huge. I know it seems like a very small step, but it is huge when you're dealing with trauma, when you're dealing with flashbacks. So I still have insomnia. It's a process, guys. That's what it is. And we'll talk about that a lot. We'll talk about it on TikTok. We'll talk about it on Facebook. I'm going to post stuff on YouTube. So join me everywhere. Talk to Jay. Talk to Double D. They're my media team. My director. Who's really, really fantastic. My whole team is here. So, yeah, we'll talk about it as well. My beautiful African team. And guys, thank you so much. Because you put up with a lot from me too. I know, it's a process and I'm learning it too. Sometimes I have short temper, sometimes I freak out, and various things happen, and my memory constantly still goes. But it is a process, people, that you need to face and you need to deal with. Otherwise, like this is 3 years later. If you don't deal with that, it's gonna destroy your entire life. By facing it and by working with my team, who I initially met just as friends, and then eventually some of us were mentoring each other, not just me, them, each other. And they made me inspired me to really start building a company and doing the stuff that I used to do. Yes, I'm an ex-model, but I'm also a computer engineer. And we're building a team with Ben, that's going to be running the tech, Jay, that's running the social media stuff, which we've just really started, and the third final piece that we're going to be looking at is looking at the stuff with foundation. That's going to be the big thing for me. That's my baby. I want the other places to really start helping out and paying for the foundation piece, so that way we can help people here with mental health, people in Africa. This is a huge one for me. And so that's it, guys. For now, I just wanted to share my story. That no, not perfect. Perfectly broken, but not perfect. But just remember, when something's broken, like a bone, for example, when it really heals up, it actually builds this thing around itself that makes it actually stronger. So, the message here is, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Folks, thank you very much. Hi Larry, how are you? It's nice to join you, and nice to have you join. Sorry, you're a little bit late, but we're talking about mental health and what I went through, what I went through. Larry is like my brother, and thank you for joining us here. And unfortunately, this is going to be the end of my story today. We'll be live again on Wednesday, and we'll just continue with the next piece of discussion. Well, I actually want to talk about what really happens with the brain functions when you're going through trauma, when you're going through all of that stuff. So we'll see. Now, Jay, how do I actually make sure that I record this thing? Please tell me. So, I'm waiting for you. So, that's it, guys. Looks like Jay is not answering, so I'm going to try to save it. Okay? Maybe Ben can actually tell us. Nope, that's not either. Okay. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And yes, I am ending it. I'm gonna end and share. What do I click? Live? I don't know how to click end. Sorry guys, this is all kind of new to me. So, I think I'm going to try. But thanks guys.